Hello, Stampers, and welcome to another episode of Stampin' on the Hill. Today, I had a question the other day about how to clean ink off of stamps that you've used StazOn ink on, which then led me to believe, or to led me to want to do a video about which inks to use. So, I thought I would just start with the classic ink pads and show you what we're looking at here. So let me change the view here a minute so you can see it in full screen. See if that works. It did. Okay. So this is a classic Stampin' pad, ink pad. This is the newer. I have some older style ink pads as well, but this is the newest style. So I wanted to point out a couple of things about it. It's dye-based, it's fast drying, acid-free. The case is stackable. I don't know, can you see the little divots right here on all four corners? And then on the back side, there are bumps. So then this one would stack right on top of another one. And I also wanted to point out that the ink, this is typical Stampin' Up, so this really hasn't changed. The ink itself has, well, if you can't open it this way, it's supposed to just open like this. But if you have trouble popping it open like this, use your thumbs at the top. And then that'll pop it open. And then, so the ink itself, as you open this, you can see is on that lid that is flipping open. It's on the lid, which means that your ink is always closest to the surface in which you're going to pull ink from with your stamp. So using just this is from the Inked and Tiles stamp set, but this is just an idea of how quick and easy that is. And then if I run my finger across it, it's pretty dry. So how do you clean this one now? You can just use plain old water. We have what we call Simply Chamois. I'm going to bring it in here. Simply Chamois is this purple. It's a little rubbery. This one's dry right now. I don't have it wet, but you just wet it down, get it all soft. And then you just rub your stamp across it, and then yes, it's going to always be stained, but that's okay. It'll still clean. And I usually just keep mine, I believe it comes in this, maybe it doesn't, but I keep it in a clear case. It fits in there just nicely. So that's one way to do it, with just water. Another way is with our Stampin' Scrub. And with this, let me close this ink before I get it all over the place. With the Stampin' Scrub, you open this up and it's got two sides. If you can see in here, one has little droplets in it, so that's supposed to be the wet side. I'm not sure if you can see that. And then the other side has little sunshine in it, which is the dry side. So you would take your Stampin' Mist and you would mist it on just a couple squirts. You'll mist it on the wet side and take your stamp and you just scrub it along there. I go multi-directional just to get in the grooves, and then on the dry side again. And then typically I would stamp it off onto blotter paper just to make sure, you can see a little bit of residue in there, and then you're clean, good to go. All right, so now we know the Stampin' Scrub works. We know about the chamois, and these are how to clean just anything that is with our classic ink. So another thing that uses our classic ink are the Stampin' Write markers. Stampin' Write markers are great for writing and for coloring. So this one has a pointed tip on it, so for writing, and then it's also got a brush tip on it. So with the brush tip, I can color right directly onto my stamp. And you usually will do this with, like, if you're going to do multiple colors, because then I'm going to color green on the stem. But you would usually do whichever is your lightest color first so that you don't accidentally get it on anything. You see what I'm doing here? Make sure I'm actually in the camera for you. And then this will stamp here. And then again with the Stampin' Scrub. I have that off camera for you. But so again, Stampin' Scrub. So water or the Stampin' Scrub. Let's see what else. Then we have Memento ink. And the Memento ink is black, tuxedo black. And it opens like this. This is the Stampin' Up! Instead of having a classic ink pad like that, this is what we're using as a black ink right now. And that, I have an outline image. Looks like I got a bit on there. So this, I can stamp, and it makes a nice outline. I can come back in then too with my markers, and I can color those. And I can color here and here. You can also use your water painters and paint in here. You can use blender pens, which have a clear liquid in it that just sort of makes it look like a watercolor, and you can pick the ink up from there. Let's see. Let's try this again with the Stampin' Blends. So I'm going to stamp it one more time. Now this, with the Memento ink, this also is cleaned with just your Stampin' Scrub. So we'll get that off of there. And that's good. So I was going to show you, though, another coloring technique here. And I brought in, I'm using Poppy Parade, by the way. So I brought in Poppy Parade, and these are the Stampin' Blends. These are alcohol-based markers. So you don't want to put them on your, like I did with this one. You don't want to color on the stamp itself, but you can use it to color in and blend. So what I like to do, I usually use the small tip, but what I like to do is kind of go through some dark lines or maybe some shadows like this with the dark one, and then I come back in with the light one. And again, I usually use just the small tip, and then you can kind of blend that together. This is not easy to color very well on camera, but you can kind of see where the lights and the darks kind of blend together. If you want to add more dark in there, you just play with it, go back and forth. So these markers themselves don't require really cleaning because you're not putting it on a stamp. I also wanted to bring to your attention that there is a color lifter, it's called. So you can actually come in, I'm not sure if you're going to be able to see this very well on here, but you can come in and you can see how it's making it lighter right there? And I can bring it in on this side if I wanted, and it's lightening up. So they call it the color lifter because you can add some lighter highlights with that. Let me bring this up closer to the camera so you can see what it did there. So anyway, that's fun. And then let's see, where are we as far as dies go? We did the Memento. Okay, so StazOn, which was the idea behind where we started with this. So the StazOn ink, this comes in brown as well. I typically only ever use black, but so StazOn ink is used for non-porous surfaces. So maybe I'm going to move this out a minute. I'm going to bring in a piece of black just so you can see my window sheet. So I've got a piece of acetate window sheet. You can also use this on vellum. You can use it on like if you did like ceramic tile, you know, a lot of people will do crafts and use this kind of ink with that. I'm going to, let me think here. I thought this was going to be a grand idea, but maybe it isn't. Let's do it this way. And we'll ink this stamp up and put it down. You have to go very gently because it'll smear around on there if you let it. So I realized that I have black under there. You'll see it did smear a bit. And it takes a little bit longer to dry. So let's turn it this way and try again. So straight down. You almost want to just set it on there instead of like push hard and then lift. And then let's try to move that was better. That's better. So anyway, that's what you would use your StazOn for primarily. Here's another little tip. The StazOn comes with a plastic lid. And so instead, and you're supposed to leave the lid on there so it helps to keep the alcohol in there. But a tip that I learned from another demonstrator was to put the lid on and use some Stampin' Dimensionals on the inside of your lid here, and then push this down on there. And then the lid usually will stay on the inside for you. So there's a handy tip. So now that I have the StazOn on here, you're going to want to use a StazOn cleaner, which is also sold in the catalog, right with the StazOn inks. And what you do, this has got like a dauber on it, and you can see the film. It gets discolored, but whatever. And then I just sort of daub it on, and then I use a paper towel and get off the majority of it. It's a little bit kind of an oily substance. And then I take this and then I run it through my Stampin' Scrub. Let's do that. There we go. So that was pretty easy. Let's see, what else did I have? I showed you the blends already. Color lifter. Oh, there's a, stack these up here. So there's a Versamark. And a Versamark is clear. It's very sticky. It is used to make like a watermark type of a, let's use this one again, a watermark kind of an image. So, or a tone on tone if you're looking to do like a background for something. I don't know if you can even see it because it's so light, but you can see it on there a little bit. So that's kind of the same as using the tone on tone when you use the same color ink as you do, bring a same color ink as you have paper. It's a little darker. So you kind of get the idea though, what your options are as far as using this as a background or very light background with an image on it, or using the tone on tone option. And then clean that. So with the Versamark though, oh, you can also use it for embossing powder. So if I had embossing powder and I put it on this image that I stamped first out of the Versamark, put the embossing powder on there and then heat it up. That's another use for Versamark. And again, you're going to clean the Versamark the same as you clean the classic ink. So either water or the Stampin' Scrub. And then I also have craft ink. Now my craft ink pad is really old. So the new ones are in a case that look like this, in the newer case. And then it comes uninked. So you'll get a pad and it'll be empty on the inside. I mean, the pad is there, but it won't have any ink on it. And then you'll get a refill bottle and then you ink it up yourself. So what we do with the craft ink, again, you can use this for images on darker paper. It looks really cool when you do it on black or something. But again, we can use this for heat embossing. So I could put embossing powder right over the top of it, of this as well, and then heat that up. And again, we're just going to clean this just the same. You know, I usually try to get off most of the ink on my blotter paper before I go right to whatever I'm cleaning it with, whether it's the chamois or the Stampin' Scrub. I try to stamp off most of the ink on my blotter, so then I don't have to clean the chamois and or the Stampin' Scrub quite as often that way. With the Stampin' Scrub, just thought of this, because the chamois you just run underwater, but you just keep, I just keep squeezing it until like the water runs clear, and then I let it dry. These come out of here, and I wouldn't say they're dishwasher safe, but I just run. Now you can see it. You can see the little things that are holding it in. Sometimes it's better if I try to use a butter knife and get under there and sort of bend it upward a little bit, and it pops right out. But I just use a little Dawn dish soap and some warm water, and I scrub through there, and then I let it dry, or rinse it. I rinse it until it runs clear, and then let it dry. I think that's all I have for today. If I can find my mouse and get back in here with you. Thank you for sharing these few minutes with me. I hope you learned something. I learned something, because honestly, I didn't think we used or that we had the StazOn cleaner in the catalog anymore. And so I had to do some research and found out that sure enough, we do. You'll always want to use that instead of like an alcohol based. I know I use some hand sanitizer when I'm cleaning my clear blocks, the blocks themselves, my acrylic blocks. You know, if they get ink or whatever, sticky stuff or whatever on there, I use hand sanitizer for cleaning that. But you don't want to use it on the rubber, because it will make your rubber dry and brittle, which I guess if you think about it, makes sense a little bit. I suppose if you did it once in a while, it's probably not going to hurt anything. If you did do that, I would probably still try to run it through the Stampin' Scrub, because the Stampin' Mist, that is the cleaner that we put on the Stampin' Scrub, has a little bit of oil in it as well. So that would maybe condition it a bit. But anyway, so now you know everything you needed to know about inks. Thanks for watching.